Hello and welcome to the Pop Report with myself, August Pappas, and joining me as always is Fulton Lee. Lee, how are you doing today, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So here's how we're going to start today, Lee. I read something on the internet about how we need a pejorative term to describe people who rely on ChatGPT regularly. And I know you happen to be one of those people. So you are in the rare minority of people who get to choose the insulting term used to describe them, all right?
Okay.
So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you three options that I've come up with. I've come up with three insulting names for people who use ChatGPT too much, and you get to choose which one your people will be described as.
Okay.
All right, you ready for the first one?
Yep.
Option number one, sloppers.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you're right. I'm familiar with the term AI slop, and I love it. I give that like maybe a 7.
A 7 out of 10. Okay. Option number two, ChatGPT cheaters.
Corny. I give that
Corny.
a 2.
Okay. Last one, option number 3, prompt donkey.
10. Perfect 10. Prompt donkey. Have you
All
seen
right.
this skit where the guy is acting like a kind of racist, like out of touch boomer dad, but it's like in the year 2070, and he's
No.
talking about his daughter's AI boyfriend, and he's like, I guess we're just inviting clankers to dinner now. And everyone like looks at, he's like, what did I say? I didn't say, he doesn't even have feelings. That's really good. That's really good.
Well, I'm excited to be launching a new insulting term for a whole class of people today. Prompt donkeys.
Prompt donkey. Them and their dang clankers.
On that topic, Lee, we've talked about AI before, and there's a new development which songs have been charting on the Billboard Top 100 by AI artists. Have you seen some of these, or have you heard some of these AI songs that have been charting?
Yeah, I mean, there's one that was charting on iTunes, which is like nobody uses iTunes, so it's a little bit deceiving. But there was an AI song that's gone viral on TikTok, and because I don't know, Billboard and charting songs, to me, it's like a little bit, it doesn't really accurately reflect where kind of the focus of like culture, like pop culture is, but a viral TikTok sound does. And it was, I don't know, have you heard it? It's hold me closer, know that I'm a man.
No,
All right,
I
all
haven't
right.
heard it.
Yeah, so it went viral. There's all these like dances, and then like maybe I don't know, 2 weeks after, like everyone was like really into this song. Everybody realized it was AI.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Lee, since you're more familiar with TikTok than I am, when a song goes viral, is it closely associated with an artist, or is it just like a format that people use to kind of do their own content, whether it's dancing or, performing in some way?
Yeah, it's that one. It's like there's millions of songs that have gone viral and nobody knows who the artist is. It's just a vibe, because sounds can go viral, even on
Right.
Instagram. Just the sound itself goes viral, and yeah, it's mainly users making videos to the sound. But then sometimes the sound will become kind of such a centerpiece of the content being made with that sound that then there's just a whole subset of culture that's just talking about like this song. Like you'll see a video posted with that sound where the person is just talking about how like this song is so addicting. It's like in my
Right.
blood. I don't know who it is, but this sound, I just can't stop watching videos with this sound.
Yeah, but for that reason, I think there's a little bit of an asterisk behind a TikTok hit as much as there is behind looking at the Billboard. I think they're both just kind of approximations of what people are listening to. In some ways, they both are sort of cornering a different part of the attention market when it comes to music. You know what I mean? And go ahead.
Well, I finish your point because I don't totally know where you're going.
The point being that the AI music is climbing both of those ladders, right? It's gaining relevance across a couple different parameters by which we would measure something's pop culture relevance.
Right,
It's not
right.
like we don't have the AI, like, I don't know, what would be an example, like Despacito, like a song that just takes over the world, or like Not Like Us. There's not one of those yet, and maybe there never will be. Maybe that's not achievable.
I think it's coming.
You think it's coming?
I do.
But regardless, we do have we're taking steps. We're on the path toward that. And one thing I found really interesting about let's talk about the stuff that's on the Billboard charts, whether or not that's, you know, an end all be all of a song's popularity. It is one measurement, and there's some interesting things to say about it. I think one of which is the genre that it's in. The two that I saw, one is a country song. And the other is like a Christian rock song. But let's talk about the country artist first. Have you seen this country artist called Breaking Rust is the artist's name?
Yeah, I've heard the one song.
It's got like, I think the artist has like 3 million monthly listeners on Spotify right now. And so I listened to the top 5 songs, and it's really interesting because they have very noticeable similarities between all 5, where they all start with this kind of like sort of like soulful hum. It's like the you know, the no diggity hum.
Yeah.
That thing. Every song starts with that first. And then the formats and the sort of mood and energy of the songs are all very similar, which is this sort of like soul kind of heavy beat groove, spaced out kind of country anthem sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which just got me thinking about what types of songs lend itself to being made by AI and what don't. And I'm not surprised now that I think about it. I'm not surprised that has clicked, because I think it's a very reliable recipe for a song that sort of captures people and can generate a lot of energy with a very small amount of like production elements, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it could do anything. I think that it could tackle more production heavy genres. To me, it's surprising that it's gone to such an organic sounding genre, like with like a rustic kind of like raspy voice and an acoustic guitar. When I thought of AI making music, I thought more of like an EDM, like that would kind of be the lane that it would do best.
Yeah.
But so that just proves and the one that went viral on TikTok was like an EDM style thing. So I think it can just do anything. And even like the Velvet Sundown, the one band that went, you know, that had all the buzz, that was AI. That was like very like retro rock. Like it's crossed genres. And I think that it's going to be good at making songs that people like. That's its whole job. Like it's absorbing and learning the entire corpus of music throughout history, and it's identifying themes and it's identifying patterns of things that did well, and it's filling little gaps that don't exist yet, and it's just going to get better and better. And like on TikTok, nobody knew it was AI, they just knew it was a good song. And I think that's just gonna get better and better. It's gonna keep happening. But people do still, when they learn something is AI, at least some portion of society gets turned off. I think probably with the country thing, at least from what I've seen, which hasn't been a ton, there's been less pushback. I don't know if it's because it's kind of targeting a demographic that's prone to care less about something being AI versus like TikTok. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen all the way. And the only thing that I don't know if it will ever happen is if like, whatever this guy's name is, Breaking Rust, is that what it's called?
Yep.
I don't know if Breaking Rust, the artist, is going to become a successful brand that's like, that like is like a legendary kind of artist and brand. I don't know if that will ever happen, but I do think that songs will have meteoric success from AI from now on.
Yeah, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but I think the cynical take on that song's success is that there are certain genres of music where the listener base they're not in it for much more than sort of the surface level experience of the music, which is fine. That's not inherently a bad thing. Whereas let's say you get really into someone like Chance the Rapper or Kendrick. There's a whole culture and depth behind those people that are part of the product.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people who might be listening to like the Billboard Top Country stuff, that's just not that interesting to them. And it's an easier market to just provide something that will give that sort of immediate enjoyment, and that's it. Is that too insulting to people who are into pop country? What do you think?
I think that's just a I think that's just a reality. Like people that listen to conscious rap care about the story of the artist that's making the rap. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like people that listen to Kendrick care about his socio-political opinions, and they care about his upbringing. And people that listen to like Luke Bryan are really just trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's inherently just going to be different motives, and the same person that listens to Kendrick could go and listen to pop country and not care that it's AI, but wouldn't be into an AI artist if they were doing conscious rap. So it's like, it's not even necessarily just a single person or listener that's assigned to either group. It's more of like the frame of mind that a person is in when listening to a particular genre.
Yeah. And this might be kind of a long bow to draw, but there is another AI artist called Solomon Ray. And Solomon Ray is doing very well in the Christian music market.
Oh yeah, I have heard of this.
And I think what it makes me think of, and I don't know if this is true or not, it feels like the country artist breaking rust, the music itself, when you listen to it, I think has an aspect of kind of like soul to it, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not soul music, but it incorporates elements of that for sure.
Yeah, right.
And the Christian music, because it's such intense emotional content, I kind of have a similar association with it, where I wouldn't call it soul music, but I think it's sort of music about the soul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think what I've been surprised by is how two genres that I associate with extreme, sort of like, not extreme, but like intense emotional content and like connectivity to the listener are like the sort of kicking off point for a form of music creation that in a certain sense has no soul, you know?
Right. That's exactly what I was saying earlier about, like, I'm so surprised that like country is the genre that, or even retro rock with the Velvet Sundown. Like, I would have thought that it would have been like a Daft Punk sound, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like something that just has like a strict grid and is just EDM, or like LMFAO, you know, that's what I would have thought AI music would have like nailed first. But you're like you're saying, it's tapping into this like deep, like human emotion, soulful singing and production. And I am also surprised and troubled that it's having success, because you would hope that people would be like, oh yeah, I liked it. I could deal with the AI when it made that like just dopamine like fountain dance song. But now that it's trying to be like a soulful singer, now it's like creeping me out. That's what you'd hope would happen. So I'm at a loss. I have no idea why.
I think that gets back to the point that it's possible that both of those markets that we're talking about, they're not necessarily going to dive into the background of that artist and find out all that much. It might be that the vast majority of people who hear it, it just never occurs to them that it wouldn't be a person.
That's probably what it is. And there are just people that like, they just passively listen. You know what I mean? Or even like the owner of a grocery store that's playing a playlist, right?
Right.
Because a song is going to get a big boost when it gets into like things like, you know, being played in a Safeway or something like that. And like, if it creates the right vibe and the right atmosphere for a passive listening, like you said, the person that's listening or the person that put it in that place might not know that it's AI, but even if they found out after the fact, they would probably be like, oh yeah, that's kind of weird and a bummer. But it would just be like, whoop, and they're not going to like, it's not going to move them so much to like boycott the song.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it's also worth noting that streaming platforms have many ways of putting their hand on the scale in terms of certain artists or certain songs getting more plays and more exposure. That's like the whole point of getting a record deal, is that you suddenly have a bunch of leverage for your music to be favored by people who curate what is listened to by millions of people. And there's an obvious vested interest in a platform like Spotify having successful AI music, because suddenly they can just have an artist that it's not a person that they need to pay and copyright. They can just own a little music generating software that cuts out so many middlemen and it represents an obvious like profit motive that I would be shocked to find out that like those artists, you know, the ones we've been talking about, were just organically made it to that point without, you know, some intentional boosting on the side of the platforms.
Totally agree. I don't know how that works. You know, I've seen headlines in passing that like Spotify or like, you know, Universal Music Group has partnered with like Suno or some AI, whatever, like music generating company. And the idea is that, just like you said, like Spotify is going to own a portion of the software that generates this AI music. And so when the music on Spotify gets streamed, Spotify pays the owner of that music for the stream, and a part owner of that music is Spotify. And so they just pay themselves for the stream. And that's obviously, there's a huge incentive for Spotify. And I don't know. It's like, I can see a world where Spotify just runs with that and really just stops, like really like puts a hard limit on human artists because of, you know, just the profit motive that they have. They would have to do it pretty low key, because there would be like a public outcry if it were to become like really visible. But I don't know. All it makes me feel is like, if you're an artist today and moving into the future, you need to focus on the things that separate you from an AI artist, which is your story and or the context with which you put your music. So maybe that, and obviously everything is video now. So for us, I'm in a very lucky position because I so happen to have content that showcases my physical body out on the street, and I interact with other people.
Yeah, and the fact that you're interacting with people is such a difference maker.
It's just something that AI is so far from being able to replicate.
Right.
Even if it's you know, in your studio, just giving some personality, like attaching the music to your face and body, and speaking voice and personality, and you know, that's the stuff I think that you're gonna need, because just the audio streaming is about to get so oversaturated that I mean, I don't think we're gonna have a choice.
Yeah, it's interesting because you and I are obviously directly implicated in this subject that we're talking about. And to a certain degree, every time an industry has been kind of assaulted by AI, like take coding, for example, like there's lots of coding work now that can be done by AI. And every time that's happened, in my head, I've always been kind of like, there you go. You know, the march of technology carries on. I guess, you know, they'll have to figure out how to do something else. And then sure enough, it arrives at our doorstep. And I think because our industry is associated with kind of like human creativity and what makes humans distinct, we have a tendency to get more defensive of it. But I mean, what do you think? Let's say someone now who's like, no, I am not going to listen to anything that is made by AI from a music perspective, right? All I want is people. Is that person a Luddite? Or is that going to be a thing? Like, is it going to be a widespread consensus amongst the public that just kind of a yuck when it comes to, AI generated creative content, whether it's like movies or music?
I really don't know. Like, I don't know what the kind of broad mass consensus will be 20 years from now. It seems like right now the majority of people think it's cringy.
Yeah.
But like, dog, I was watching football the other day.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's that Coca-Cola commercial
With the squirrel?
Yeah, and like the trucks, going down the little small town street, and it's so AI. It's like
it looks terrible.
It
looks awful.
Horrible. So that tells me like, okay, this is the biggest company in the world. Like, they didn't do that because they were trying to like save a couple bucks.
Right.
There's got to be some kind of incentive for them to do that, and maybe. And I don't know, maybe I'm like a conspiracy guy, but maybe there's like an intentional kind of conditioning of like getting people used to it, making it something that's a little more normal and that you see on TV when you watch football. And I don't know, but I know that if that is some kind of like master plan, that it will work. So yeah,
I don't know, man. I'm not sure that it will work. I think even now, like, so I've noticed that exact commercial that you're referring to because I watch ungodly amounts of football, and I really hate it.
Yeah.
It really grosses me out.
Same.
And I hate commercials. I don't know why I care about what's happening in a commercial because it's somehow like
something.
Yeah, and even the fact that people refer to kind of like the term slop. It's the perfect term.
Yes.
The term slop is beautiful. Whoever came up with it they nailed it in terms of describing what the experience is of kind of like consuming AI. Like so I work at a store here in California, and one of the store owners bought coloring books for kids who come to the store, and they're total AI slop coloring books. They're terrible. And I don't know, man, I have a visceral reaction to it that I wonder if I'm just going to get over. But I don't think so. If I was betting right now, I think that 10 years from now, there will be a hardcore, like a majority of people who are really still turned off by AI content, and it will have to just grow into a different thing somehow. I don't think it's going to catch on where 8 out of the top 10 Spotify songs are AI or anything like that. I really think there's going to be a pushback.
I don't think it'll be like 8 out of 10 if the top 10 will be AI, but I think that, like, for example, so it's going to be hard for an AI, if we're talking about music artists, for an AI artist to have loyal fans, but it will be easy for them to have a large number of passive listeners. And so it's celebrity that gets you in the top 10. Like that's a part of the recipe, Sabrina Carpenter is like a goddess to people. And so listening to her music means something way more than just it being a good song. She has a whole brand, that she evokes when you listen to the song. And I don't think AI is ever going to be able to do that. But it's going to be so easy for AI to just be on at the grocery store or sell you a coloring book or be on a Coca-Cola commercial. Like these things that are passive and like don't mean that much. It seems to me like the majority of people are already just like, oh yeah, I think that's AI, kind of weird. Oh well. And so if we're already there, then I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think that's a really good point in terms of true stardom. And like international fame just requires more than writing music that lots of people can tolerate.
Totally. Right.
So here's something I was thinking about that I want to run by you. I was thinking about like, okay, obviously these AI models that are making this music have been trained on the entire, on music made by humans, right?
Right.
And so I was thinking, like, well, is there some sort of legal recourse? Like, do they owe all of us a couple cents each based on, the fact that their music has been generated off of, stuff made by everyone else? And then I was thinking, well, how did I learn to make and produce music? And I realized, well, I learned to make and produce music by consuming lots of other humans' music over, years and years and years. And do I owe each of them a little bit of, the money that I've made, somehow? And I realized that, like, I don't know if I can draw that many significant differentiations between how an AI is trained on music and how a human is trained on music. And it kind of got me back into the circle of, could a AI, how do we know that it's not experiencing something close to what we're experiencing?
Right.
And I wanted to ask you that because I think you and I have different concepts about what it means to be in a mind and what it means to be a conscious being. And so I wanted to run that by you. Do you think it's possible for something that can make something like a Christian rock hit or make something like a soulful country song that people believe is human? Do you think it's possible that that thing that made it is experiencing something close to the creative process of a human?
Well, I mean, it all just comes down to what you think makes a human human or makes a human conscious. And I don't know we'll just never know what the subjective experience of the AI is.
Right. Or if it even has one.
But I guess maybe that's my question to you would be like, what would it take for the answer to that question to be yes? Would it, if someone could confirm to you some information about how the AI is like, quote unquote, experiencing reality, what would it take for it to be like, yep, it's the same?
It's funny you should ask that because this is something I love to think about. And I have kind of my own little bespoke answer for that.
Okay.
And it has to do with like, what makes someone's subjective experience more than just like a little camera that registers the world in a purely pragmatic way of like, I need to eat that or I need to avoid that, where you start having experiences that go beyond just accomplishing the structural necessities of your life. And my little theory about this is that like consciousness sort of popped into the world, for lack of a better term, when agents, many, many millions, if not billions of years ago, needed to replicate in themselves what they saw in someone else. Like, let's say you're a little 3-celled organism and you and another 3-celled organism need to go kill that bigger one so that you can eat it. This is obviously a super goofy example. But in order to predict what that thing you're trying to eat is going to do, you have to see what it's experiencing and project in yourself what you would do if you were it. And you sort of have this sudden sort of like meta moment of encapsulating someone else's experience and replicating it in yourself. It's like, for us, like if you see someone you care about who's in pain, to a certain degree, you feel that in yourself. Empathy, and you can express and show through your physicality that you can measure that. Like if you were to plug me into a heart rate monitor, a brain activity scanner, and you showed me someone I cared about in extreme duress, you would see all of these things start to change in how those things read out, because I'm replicating in myself to a certain degree what someone else is experiencing. Okay. So I think that to a certain degree, to believe that something else really was feeling something, I think it would need a physical instantiation that would reflect its inner experience and then understand and reflect in itself someone else's experience. That's my bespoke definition of consciousness.
Okay. So you need some kind of evidence that there is like you need the equivalent of a heart monitor or a brainwave scanner on the AI so that you can monitor its reactions. And then you need those tools to prove to you that the AI has some level of empathy.
To a certain degree. If someone tells me I feel sad, or that they feel sad, and I see them and I don't see any sign in their if they just say the words I feel sad, I don't believe them. In the same way that is, if a chatbot types out the word on a screen, I feel sad, it's interesting that it said that, but I don't necessarily believe that it truly feels sad. I need to see how it behaves in the world. I need to see how its physical, posture and its physical readouts reflect that somehow, or else just saying the words doesn't mean that much to me.
Well, so it sounds like...
Yeah, go ahead.
It sounds like the primary metric for you is that AI, if AI feels emotion, then it's conscious. So it sounds like the thing that it's hanging on is emotion. That's the metric.
Yeah, that's what I would need to. That's to convince me. That's what I would need to see. I'm not sure that's like the beginning and end of it, but that's how I read it in other people for sure.
Right. So what if because for example, a fly, I don't know that you could really confirm emotion in a fly.
Yeah, I don't think flies have emotion.
So, okay, so I guess that makes sense because a fly isn't conscious in the way that humans are conscious, but I guess what I'm trying to ask is if there was a way to confirm somehow or get close to confirming that AI was as conscious as a fly, what would that mean for you? How would you see the AI then?
Well, it's interesting. You're essentially asking what are the ramifications of the fact that I think flies are conscious, and it doesn't stop me from killing flies. I can tell you that. Because I think that conscious exists on a continuum, where something like a fly or an ant is conscious, but to a very minimal extent. I don't think that they feel emotions about their family members, for example. I don't think if that fly is lost, there's two little fly babies at home, peering out the window, wondering when fly dad gets home, and they're heartbroken that he's not there. What I was, as I was talking about earlier, in terms of being sort of a camera that looks at the world and accomplishes its most pragmatic possible goals, I think that's essentially what things like flies and ants are. But that doesn't mean I don't think they can suffer, for example. I wouldn't want to cause a fly more pain than a fly needs to experience, because I think pain is one of the pragmatic elements of consciousness. It tells you when you're in physical danger. So for that reason, I wouldn't try to put a fly through pain, and I wouldn't, for the same reason, try to put a potentially conscious AI agent through pain either.
Do you think right now that AI is as conscious as a fly?
No.
You don't? Okay.
No.
So on the continuum of consciousness, AI is just not even on the spectrum at all.
I don't think so. I don't think it's, I don't think that's really testable. But my bet, if I was betting money on it, I would bet no.
How on earth could we ever know?
It's a tough question because it carries such moral ramifications behind it. Because an AI is something you could make millions of. And what if they're all just suffering horribly? And we didn't. It's a really tough corner to work yourself into. And it's something that I wanted to ask you two about as well, because we come from very different backgrounds and from sort of an ethical and moral origin standpoint. You as a religious person, I would be really interested to just hear how that idea kind of bounces off of you in terms of what are the moral and ethical implications about something that might be feeling, that might be suffering or feeling emotions. How do you approach that?
Well, I think the conversation we've been having is exactly what I would have to do to figure that out. I would have to somehow understand what it means, or I would have to find a way to confirm or deny a subjective experience occurring in the AI. And I kind of get stopped in my tracks right there, because I'm like, it's a completely different species, not only from a human, but just from an organism at all. It doesn't have it doesn't have cortisol, it doesn't have dopamine, it doesn't have any of the things that we use to measure subjective experience from the outside. It doesn't have any of those things. And so there's just no way to measure it. And I guess if there was some hypothetical way to measure a subjective experience, I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It's like
it's a real mind bender to start to think about, and it actually touches on something we've talked about before, Lee, not on the podcast, but just between ourselves, which is the concept of free will. And it's funny because I feel like we're getting into some sort of philosophical stuff. Well, but even what you're talking about now is, it's like, okay, remember when we were talking about that at-home robot?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, imagine that at-home robot, but like it's 150 years later. And 150 years later, it has a very complex central processing unit, and maybe it has touch receptors all across the surface of it, and maybe it does have some sort of like artificial hormones like cortisol and dopamine that can flow through it. And at some point, at what point does it cross the line before? Is it just the amount of hardware it has kind of working similar to how a human's hardware works?
Right. This is a great point.
And if it does cross that line at some point, what does that say about us?
That is the best illustration I've heard so far, because basically it's, if we could replicate all of the things that, physically about a human, just like you said, like hormones, whatever it is, at that point, it's just a replication made out of material, right? But so are we. And is it wholly different just because it didn't come out of someone's flesh?
Yeah.
When the line gets crossed, I don't know. I have no clue.
And it's a fascinating cliff that all of humanity is approaching at the same time with the introduction of AI in our lives. Like, really what we're talking about is kind of the same thing we're talking about with the music, right? We're just extrapolating it further and further down the line. It all kind of comes back down to the same conversation. And it's a really tough thing to grapple with. But the thing is that the implications end up saying so much about us, right?
What does it say?
Well, one way to interpret it is that we are machinery, right? And the fact that it happens to be wet machinery instead of, metal and plastic and fabric, does that make that much of a difference? That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is maybe that, well, it doesn't matter how close you build that thing. If it doesn't have billions of years of evolution behind it, and it doesn't have a brain with, trillions and trillions of neurons connecting to it in the way that ours does, it can't experience something like the way that we do. And we just don't know.
Well, here's maybe something that I would feel about it. Like, humans, let's say we get a robot with a body to that level where it has a nervous system that really is similar to a human's, and it has all these touch receptors, and maybe it has dopamine and all this stuff. We can take raw materials and just build that, and we can make it, and we can take it apart, and we can put it back together, and then we can turn it on and it works. But we can't take flesh and bones and put it together and turn it on and it works. We can't. And to me, that points to a mystery of life within wet machinery that it obviously, from my perspective, points to some kind of divine element in the life that comes out of the wet machinery. But because we can see and measure and build and deconstruct every little part of a hard machinery, that I think in my mind, I feel like there has to be a difference there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Let me give you a counterpoint though.
Okay.
Imagine someone who has a heart transplant, which you can do. You can get a new heart.
Yeah.
And then imagine that person has a kidney problem and then they get a kidney transplant. And then imagine that person loses a hand and then they get a new hand. Not a human hand, but every decade we get better at sort of reconstructing all of this wet machinery or replacing all of this wet machinery that kind of makes us us. And, maybe 100 years from now, you can take your brain out of one person and put it into another. I'm not sure that the premise that we don't have a sort of an almost like robotic like control over the mechanics of what it means to be a human. I'm not sure I'm all the way on board with that premise, or that's not changing over time.
Well, we do have some level of manipulation over something that already has life, right? So a human that's already living, we can do pretty amazing things that like kind of get us close to feeling like we do have some kind of like comprehensive mastery over the thing that animates the body. But we can't take a dead thing and just turn it back on.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I got it. I'm going to have to think about that. So Lee, this has been super fun, man. I really enjoy talking with people who have different opinions, and that's one of the reasons I like talking to you so much, is I feel like we really come from different places, and it's fun to hear the other side of things.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's wrap it up there. We'll just have to keep tracking how this whole sort of AI music thing plays out, and it'll be really interesting to keep tabs on it. If anyone would like to join the conversation, please feel free to comment on our YouTube videos or join us on Fulton Lee's what is it called?
The Discord.
The Fulton Lee Discord. Yeah. But anyway, until next week, Lee, I will see you later, man.
Peace.
Later.